In about 2 weeks, the chair of the Assembly's Elections Committee still expects the clerks of Brown and Milwaukee counties to turn over ballots and voting machines. Representative Jenel Brandtjen is pushing for the Arizona-style audit, even as lawyers for the legislature have now said twice she does not have the authority to issue such subpoenas. We sat down with Representative Brandtjen earlier this week. Representative Jenel Brandtjen, we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Now, when we look at these subpoenas that you've issued to the clerks of Brown and Milwaukee counties seeking ballots and voting machines, among other things, what exactly are the questions you're hoping to answer?
Well, I think the questions that we hear from regularly from not only the voters but from people around the state is they have questions about the ballots and the machines, the physical ballots and the machines. And the point of that is the machines themselves, I don't know how well you understand them, but the machines, when the ballot goes into the machine, it takes a picture of that ballot. And that is actually how it is counted. It doesn't count from the physical ballot, it counts from a picture. So there are questions we've heard from a lot of folks that want to make sure that, you know what, the machines are working properly.
Questions in terms of, because I know Mike Lindell's been he had a big symposium about this recently. Do you believe that these machines were somehow hacked and votes were changed?
Ultimately, those are the questions we get. And the point of having this overview, having this ability to go through the process and show your work, right? Either the physical ballots have the opportunity to be matched up with those numbers, or they don't. The physical ballot is that gold standard. That is what the voters' intention was. And so by having the opportunity to go through the ballots and compare it to the totals, we put this to bed, right? One way or the other. It's a win-win.
Who do you believe is qualified to then answer those questions once you're accessing that? Do you believe a group like Cyber Ninjas is qualified to come into Wisconsin and answer those questions?
We're not talking about the Ninja Turtles then anymore. We're talking about truly the Cyber Ninjas. That was the opportunity to talk about how we're going to have oversight. Is not just about the 2020 election, it's about elections going forward. We want to make sure that people have trust and faith that when they put that ballot into the box, that they know it's a fair and transparent election.
But ensuring that, answering these questions though, do you think that Cyber Ninjas is qualified to come here and do that? And is that who you would want to come here and answer those questions?
I think that we are now rebuilding a process for having an audit. And we now know that there's technologies. By going to Arizona, I never knew that we had the opportunity to look at ballots and determine if they were fraudulent or not. By going to Arizona, that we would have the opportunity to go through and recount the ballots, the physical ballots, to match them up to the numbers. We're still waiting for information from Cyber Ninjas. I'm not dealing with Arizona though. I'm talking about Wisconsin. And you're talking about a state in Green Bay, city of Green Bay, that you had a gentleman from New York who had the keys to the counting room. He had a tag that said he was a city of Green Bay employee when he wasn't.
I do remember that hearing though in March when Sandy Juneau testified, and she mentioned that she confronted him and asked, "What are you doing?" She thought that he was overstepping his bounds, and if that may have been the case. He then walked away, and then as the committee discussed that, there was an acknowledgement. There was never any proof of any kind of wrongdoing or misdeeds in Green Bay.
I completely disagree with you, and I don't think you've gone through the emails and the email chains that we have from June on that talk about the clerk and her being overruled in the curing process and her being overruled on where the election was going to be heard.
As far as these subpoenas go, one of them being for Brown County, 2 times now, the Legislative Council, which basically acts as the lawyers for the legislature, they've issued memos saying, you alone do not have the authority to order the clerks of Brown and Milwaukee County to come forward, that Speaker Voss's signature is needed to make these legitimate. And he's previously described what you're pushing for as, quote, misguided. How do you react to that?
Well, at the end of the day, aren't we all working for the same thing? The subpoena power was given in March by 58 members of the Assembly, including Speaker Voss himself. And this is about getting to listen, either we have issues with the machines and we have issues with voters being able to legitimately cast their ballot or we don't.
The U.S. Department of Justice, though, has issued a memo to all the states saying inviting third parties in to access voting equipment, that could breach chain of custody in some states. This has already led to some concerns, Arizona and Pennsylvania, about counties having to replace voting machines because unauthorized, unqualified people were messing around in these machines. Is it worth the risk when at this point there just hasn't been any proof presented of what we're looking at here? Somehow outside hackers changing ballots or discarding ballots?
Well, I don't know that any proof hasn't been found yet because we haven't been allowed to look. It's pretty hard for people to feel confident in a process when I have multiple parties saying, hey, nothing to look, nothing to see. We don't, right now in the state of Wisconsin, a clerk, you have these vendors from ES&S and Dominion, and I'm not saying they're not doing a good job, but they are the ones that do the programming, they do the election on election day, and they do the audits. I got to tell you, as a business owner, I'd like to be able to do my audit every year. So maybe there's an opportunity to gain more confidence in our process.
I think that's fair to say. You don't want people auditing themselves in anything, but we did have 2 recounts in Milwaukee and Dane counties this past election. And for instance, the Washington County Clerk, that's an awfully red county, the Washington County Clerk was here in Madison, and she complimented the Dane County Clerk on a well-run recount. So you also have Senator Bernier, who's the Senate Elections Committee Chair,
so
also
I'm
former clerk,
going
and she's
to
also
interrupt
saying
you for a
there's no
second.
need for this.
I'm going to ask you, I was at Central Count for a recount in Milwaukee, and for all of us that were there, I wish you had been there because it was an unbelievable situation where people were kept so far from the ballots, nothing could be witnessed. And that's why we had observer bills change this year. Listen, either we're going to rebuild trust by letting people understand and see the process, or we're going to continue to have these questions.
Does it restore any of the trust at all to have outside county clerks coming in and observing a recount process and they themselves saying this was a well-run recount? They're not expressing the concerns that you're saying. Shouldn't that restore some trust?
I'm sorry, can you ask that question again?
If outside clerks like the Washington County Clerk are observing the recount in Dane County,
so I'm not referring to Dane County.
Wrong.
I wasn't at Dane County. I can refer to Milwaukee. And so you may have been at Dane County and I heard great things. But what I saw in Milwaukee was completely different. And I also have to say, Central Count, the hearing that we had with Representative Tussler in December, go back and review it. It was an eye-opener. There were a lot of concerns about Central Count in Milwaukee, what was being done, how far the observers were being kept, and how the process was managed. Again, an opportunity where I have a third-party individual from New York getting updated information every night in the state of Milwaukee of what outstanding ballots were there.
Do you believe that somebody from New York came in and somehow orchestrated the changing of ballots or discarding of ballots? What's the
That's not what I'm saying at all.
What's the end game?
Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that you had a third-party individual from New York who was a Democrat operative working out of the clerk's office in Green Bay and had a relationship with the Wisconsin Election Commission and brought in millions of dollars to turn out an election for certain groups of individuals.
When we look at the...
So with that, are we getting closer?
I have one more. This is my last one.
No problem.
So when we look at the subpoena
Sure.
and the language in it,
Yeah.
it mentions things that are not in Wisconsin's electoral system, like signature matching.
Yeah.
So people wonder, is this subpoena something that was drafted by Wisconsinites, or is this something that was copy and pasted from other states because it's including things that Wisconsin doesn't even do? As far as you know, who drafted the language in that subpoena?
I drafted it. I'll take responsibility for it. I'm not an attorney. I never claimed to be one. The larger point is, in statute right now in the state of Wisconsin, what is considered the record for keeping materials, for clerks to keep materials, is somewhat ambiguous. And so just to say that I'm looking for physical ballots and the opportunity to have the data that goes along with the machines, I probably went too far. But since we don't have it cleared out in statute, I wanted to make sure that every opportunity was there so that we can get to the bottom of it, bring closure to the process, and either we do have issues with the ballots and machines or we don't, and then we can move on as a state, make corrections, or we can say, hey, look, nothing to see here.
Representative Brandtjen, I appreciate the time.
I appreciate the time as well. Thank you.
Regarding this idea of having a third party inspect ballots and especially voting machines, the Rock County Clerk, Lisa Tollefson, writes us in an email, quote, "I absolutely have concerns about outside groups accessing our voting equipment. If that chain of custody is broken, we would need to replace our voting equipment. That cost would be over $600,000.